Hello and welcome to another episode of the Larry's Pop Pod. I'm Chris Larry.
And I'm Amelia Larry.
And welcome to the Isolation Diaries Volume 2. Volume 2. We're still obviously all in lockdown and pandemic and all of this COVID nonsense. But let's make us podcast a little bit more.
Yeah.
So we said we'd try to get one a week out. So this is our second one in the diaries. Hopefully we can keep on schedule. One thing that we're going to do is take mailbag questions. So if you've got mailbag questions, you can find all the contact info in the show notes. Send us your questions. First one here, actually, it's a little bit of a pop quiz for you, Amelia. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
How old is your dad, a.k.a. Chris Larry?
Okay, so I know that your birthday is coming up. It's the 1st of May, the 1st of May. I think that you are 47 going on 48. That
is actually correct.
Yes!
Nice, good work. All right, what college did I attend?
It's Duke.
Duke?
No, not Duke.
What? Are you insane?
It's not Duke. Wait, is that high school?
Okay, take a beat. Think about it and come back.
Okay, so George, no, that's Brian. George Mason is Brian, right?
You have 10 seconds.
James Madison.
Whoa, you pulled it off. Buzzer beater. Yes, James Madison University. I also attended Bradley University in Peoria, Illinois, and graduate school at Bank Street College, so any of those would have been applicable. What is my, a.k.a. Chris Larry, a.k.a. Dad's favorite sports team?
For which sport?
Favorite sports team.
Okay, so for hockey, it's the Capitals.
Okay.
For football, it is the Redskins.
Correct.
And you don't really want any other sports, do you?
Not like at that level. Those are my two favorite teams, I would say, for sure. All right, so you did pretty good, especially pulling out James Madison right there at the end. Thank you, Joe Moyer, regular guest, friend of the pod, for that question. He actually shot us a bunch of them, so we might be sprinkling them in over the coming weeks. And we would love your mailbag questions. Hit us up. Contact information in the show notes. We have an action-packed episode here, and we'll get into it in a minute, but just want to do the kind of pop culture week in review. What was your pop culture moment for this isolation week?
In 2019, we were really sad because we were hearing that Tim Gunn and Heidi Klum were leaving Project Runway, and they were changing it totally. And we were like, well, we don't really want to watch that. Like, that's kind of dumb without Tim Gunn. Like, we're
Make
not
it
watching
work.
that. Make it work. And so then we heard that they were making their own TV show. So we were like, well, we're watching that. And so this weekend we went to Amazon and we started watching Making the Cut, which is their new TV show. And I really like it because for me it feels spontaneous. So they can vote any amount of people at any time. And
Vote what?
Vote them out.
Right.
Vote them out. Yeah. Whoever wins gets their winning look on Amazon. And basically, like, what it is, it's more of a designing competition, so it's not really a sewing competition. So
Lame.
I think it's cool.
A fashion designer should sew and design.
They should be able to sew, but I think it's a cool thing because then they have more time to work on the designs and it's more creative.
So it's a show about drawing.
No, because then they cut everything and then they give it to seamstresses.
Lame.
And then they have a runway in places that are very popular in Paris. In Paris. So they did one in front of the Eiffel Tower. And yeah, it's just been a good binge right now, even though we're only in the second episode.
All right, so my pop culture thing is actually... Generally, I've been reading a little bit more than usual, and I try to read a good amount anyway, but I don't know. I've been really enjoying reading. So I started this book, Stations 11, by Emily St. John Mandel. Now, it's about a pandemic, And it's about the aftermath of a pandemic, and it's a little bit like, am I really reading this? But I'm finding it actually very comforting. It's actually very enjoyable to read. I love some of the premise and the way that she bounces between kind of before, during, and then even 20 years after the pandemic. So I don't know. I'm kind of steering in to the my pre-time reading about pandemic, which is kind of weird.
That must be depressing and creepy at the same time.
Yeah, but it's actually kind of inspirational too. All right, so that's some quick hitters for us. We don't have a lot on this episode because we actually have a contribution from longtime contributors, are basically the Larry's Pop Pod South Memphis style. Team Plumley has filed a report on their recent obsession with the Great British Baking Show, something that we know a good amount about, correct?
Yep.
What's your favorite thing about the Great British Baking Show?
Our whole family thinks this. That, like, they're in like a lot of American reality TV shows. And they're like, "You're out, you're horrible," and like, but this one's like really sweet, and so that just kind of brings like a whole level of humanity to it.
That is very true. It's a very humane, a lot of human spirit wrapped up into that. It does make us want to eat baked foods and to bake, which Team Plumley is going to get into here in a little bit, so we won't step too much on their toes, roil their thunder. But I do want to say we would love to run your content on the podcast as a special segment. If you want to be a guest, if you have something you want to talk to us about, if you want to review something, if you have your art or your photography or your poetry, we can put on our social media, our podcast, our Instagram feed, which is the Larry's Pop Pod on Instagram. Follow, like, all that stuff. Follow for follow. Please get us your content. The Isolation Diaries are for everyone, and we want to run your stuff. So here is just a second. Here is Team Plumley with the Great British Baking Show, and then Amelia and I will be back right there at the end from a little report from the field, a little forest bathing expedition, and you get to hear some pretty nice sounds. Anything you want to say before we head into the rest of the episode?
No, I think you guys are really gonna like this.
All right, Team Plumley.
Hello, this is Team Plumley from Memphis, Tennessee, and this is our contribution to the Larry's Pop Pod Quarantine Edition. Today we will be talking about the Great British Baking Show, which is a great baking competition that is in Great Britain, and they make crazy baked stuff, and it's really cool to watch.
What channel is it on?
It is on Netflix.
How many seasons are?
And there are 7 seasons, so it'll take a while if you want to watch the whole thing.
Do you remember what season we just finished?
Yes, we just recently completed season 7, and that was a great season.
I like season 6 the best if you're looking for a good place to start. Raul, way to go. Love him.
Phoebe, you like the show?
Yes, I really like this show.
What do you like about it?
I like all their British accent.
Okay, so has it inspired y'all to do maybe more baking and stuff? Because they do a lot of baking on the show, obviously.
Yes, and it's worked out well because during the quarantine, when we've been isolating down here in Memphis, we've had a lot of free time on our hands, and we've been fortunate to be able to get to the grocery store to buy the stuff. But other than that, we've had plenty of time to bake, and we have been baking a lot. So, what are some of the things that you've baked, Frank?
Recently I've baked snickerdoodles. Those were good. And then me and my sister, we recently made a cookie cake with chocolate ganache on it.
That was so good, by the way.
Thank you.
And I will also say that I'm not a huge snickerdoodle guy, but the snickerdoodles you made were the best snickerdoodles I've ever had. Like, what did you do anything different to them? What were they?
So I followed a recipe on a kid's cookbook, actually.
Called Baking Class.
And I basically followed the recipe, and I just added a little bit of vanilla.
That was good. What about you, Phoebe? Have you been baking anything lately?
Yeah, I baked the chocolate chip cookies with Frank, and they turned out really good.
Okay. Anything else that you've baked lately?
Oh, yes. We tried to make these, like, bagel pretzel things, but they didn't turn out very well.
We ate them all, though.
Yeah.
I thought your bagel pretzels with the everything seasoning were pretty good, even though I know you weren't happy with them. I will say they all got eaten.
Thank you.
What about you, Amy? Have you been baking?
Yes, I have tried my own sourdough starter, which has been really fun. My friend Liz helped me to start with that. I've been making things with kind of like the discard of the starter that you have to do when you do a sourdough starter. If you want to start a sourdough starter, I would recommend going to the King Arthur flour site. They have a really good tutorial on how to get started with that. Unfortunately, my attempt at making a sourdough loaf, though, did not work out, but I did make some delicious crumpets and also some blueberry muffins using my starter. What about you, Eric?
Well, this weekend I made, what would you call them? I guess they were sausage balls. They were like basically cheddar cheese and Bisquick and some sausage with sage. And then I did another batch with rosemary. And then I also did a Old World beer bread, which is essentially a can of Miller High Life and a box of the Trader Joe's beer bread mix, but I'm trying to make it sound fancier than it was. But both of them were great. I'm really not a baker. I'm much more of a cook, so like baking intimidates me, but seeing everybody else watch, seeing everyone else out in the family baking after watching the show has made me want to bake. So I tried a few things. And tonight, Amy, you baked something. What did you bake today?
Well, Frank and I made a delicious crisp that we're going to eat pretty much as soon as we finish recording this.
So, that's it for the Team Plumley Quarantine Edition. Happy quarantine and bye.
We hope you have a good bake.
Brooklyn bandanas, get out and get one today. Brooklyn bandanas, no time to waste. Hooray! You can wipe your tears if you're feeling blue. Avoid a redneck and attract one too. You can hail a cab, wave it in the air, put it in your back pocket, shake it every year. You can wrap it, wear it, dab it, tie it, hold it, knot it, wave it, buy it. Brooklyn bandanas, get out and get one today.
Go to www.brooklynbandanas.com to get yours today.
Hello and welcome to Larry's Pop Pod. I'm Chris Larry.
And I'm Amelia Larry.
And one thing that we've been doing in our isolation time, since we're up in the Catskills Mountains, is we've been finding some really good hikes. And you probably hear, it's pretty noisy behind us. What is that, Amelia?
That is a waterfall.
Yeah, so enjoy the sounds for a quick second. We're near the town of Rock Hill, and it's a pretty active waterfall. It was a pretty wet winter, so the water's really running. What do you think about this waterfall?
It's big, and it's noisy, and it's really cool and beautiful.
Yeah, we're getting a nice kind of watery mist. A lot of rainbows coming off as the light refracts. It's just a pretty typically beautiful spot.
Yeah, it's really pretty with the rocks and the moss. And since there's all this water and sunlight, there's a bunch of plants, which is really pretty too.
So we'll put some pictures up, and you can hear the sound. We'd love to hear your stories of how, if you're able to get to nature, what you're doing in nature during, this time of social isolation. Any other thoughts?
Nope.